The recent death of Frederick Forrest drew a lot of recognition of his great performance as Blue Duck in Lonesome Dove. But the story of Lonesome Dove, how it got to the screen, has a lot to do with a Peter Bogdanovich movie that didn't go ahead in the early 1970s. Had a great title. It was going to be called The Streets of Laredo. It was going to be put together by Larry McMurtry, of course, the writer of Lonesome Dove, and Peter Bogdanovich. It was supposed to star John Wayne, get this, Jamie Stewart, Henry Fonda, Ryan O'Neal, Sybil Shepherd, Ben Johnson, Cloris Leachman, Ellen Bernson, and the Clancy brothers. Now, after directing What's Up, Doc, Bogdanovich landed a three-picture deal at Warner Brothers in recognition of his strong cine for that movie. The first of which was to be a Western called The Streets of Laredo, set just after the Civil War. Bogdanovich envisioned the film as a summation of the Western, assembling an all-star cast of iconic Western stars, which include, of course, Wayne, Stewart, and Fonda. Now, John Wayne did a lot of what he called old and modern Westerns. Jimmy Stewart worked with him again, Who Shot Liberty Valance. Of course, Henry Fonda had worked into Western movies from the 1930s up to the Leone era. Now, Fonda did accept the role, as did Jimmy Stewart, but reluctantly, John Wayne, however, declined. It was declined under the urgence of dying director John Ford, who was again on his deathbed around the request. He believed the film to be too much of a coda to Westerns. Now, according to published reports I saw back in the day, before and after the movie was announced and pretty well canceled, it could have been probably one of the greatest Westerns of all time. And I think what happened later on, when Bogdanovich decided not to move forward with the project, McMurtry kept the idea going because he bought the rights back and adapted the script he had worked on into the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, which he called Lonesome Dove, which ended up being the TV series. Now, you see right now, John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart, and Henry Fonda, they were the top Western movie draws of their generation. And Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Duvall were the two key ones. So if at the time Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Duvall weren't old enough or didn't have the credibility as Wayne, Stewart, and Fonda did. Now, here's the deal. By the time Lonesome Dove came out, Wayne was dead, Fonda was dead, and James Stewart was too old to appear in anything. So it's kind of interesting, like when one door opens, one door closes, another door opens. But it'd be interesting to see, was the Ryan O'Neal character supposed to be the Robert Urich character in the TV version of Lonesome Dove? Was the Diane Lane character based on possibly Sybil Shepherd? Ben Johnson, again, the big actor, Cloris Meacham, maybe the Angelica Houston character, and Ellen Burstyn as well, maybe the Glenn Headley character. So it would have really worked, in my opinion, but the timing wasn't right for what turned out to be Lonesome Dove. Now, Lonesome Dove, we all know it's the greatest miniseries of all time. There's no comparisons, even though it didn't win as many Emmys as I thought. It's the last great event miniseries of the modern era. Obviously, we've had Stephen King miniseries and other miniseries as well, but nothing compares to Lonesome Dove, because I know the whole of New Brunswick shut down when this was on. And when I visited Montana in 1995, I had a chance to go into Helena, different places, and the pride the people in Montana showed for that movie is just tremendous. Now, would it have been released for TV or for the big screen? We don't know. And basically, abandoned projects like this are littered in the 70s and 80s because actors were either getting too old, or the funding was there and there were script problems, or basically they felt it wasn't really going to work. But the title alone, The Streets of Laredo, boys, oh boys, that sounds like a Zane Grey, Louis L'Amour Westing together. I could write probably 50 novels with a theme of Streets of Laredo, like everybody goes to the town. There's a different story from the person who walks the streets of Laredo. I can see the theme music, maybe get somebody like Michael Douglas or even, Robert Blake or somebody else. Would you like to see Robert Blake play the Blue Duck? Wow. Talk about the method. I think Frederick Forrest ripped off a little bit of Robert Blake. So this podcast is a tribute to Frederick Forrest, tribute to all the actors of Lonesome Dove, to McMurtry and Bogdanovich, who wanted to do this movie. At least he got Lonesome Dove done. And we're better for to have the memory and the history of Lonesome Dove to motivate us as Western fans. Thanks for listening. Bye. Well, just an adjunct to this, the miniseries Streets of Laredo, which is considered a direct sequel to Lonesome Dove of 1989, is the miniseries version of the 93 novel of the same name by author McMurtry, and is the third installment of the Lonesome Dove series, serving as a direct sequel to Lonesome Dove. Now, the series stars James Garner as Captain Woodrow F. Call, now a bounty hunter, hired to track down Jory Garza, who was preying on the railroad. It also features key actors such as Sissy Spacek, Sam Shepard, Ned Beatty, Randy Quaid, Wes Studi, Charles Martin Smith, and George Carlin. So, Streets of Laredo, the miniseries, yes, it's out there, but not the same concept of the Streets of Laredo original movie. So again, and part 3 doesn't respect part 2. Return to Lonesome Dove is not considered canon. This is considered the direct sequel. So part 2 is not technically a sequel to part 1. It's kind of confusing. But Streets of Laredo, again, Fonda, Stewart, Wayne, boys and boys. I would have paid $50 to see that. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again. Have a good evening. Bye.